Why do you bring your classes to MASC?
I bring my classes to MASC so that they can engage with sources. It's when you look at a map or a photograph or an old brochure, you have to ask, how is this significant? And I think that's an excellent way to demonstrate their critical and creative thinking.
When you enter the Holland Terrell Libraries and walk down the stairs into the rotunda, you will arrive at the door of Manuscripts, Archives, and Special Collections, or MASC for short. Hi, I'm Steve Bingo, and I'll be your guide through this tour of MASC, where we'll meet some of the archivists and librarians who will preserve and provide access to Wazoo's collection of historical documents, rare books, maps, and photographs. When you walk through the front doors of MASC, you'll come to the reception area, which is where we are now, with the head of MASC, Trevor Bond. Hi, Steve. Hi, Trevor. So to start out with, can you tell our folks in the audience a little bit about what you can expect from a visit to MASC that you might not have with some other library experiences?
Well, I think the main difference is that you're going to be coming into an area and being exposed to collections that are unusual, rare, different. And one of the things that we try to do in our department is really give a sense of the artifact. So you'll be seeing original letters, you'll be seeing very old books in their original bindings, and I think it gives a different tactile experience that's exciting.
Okay, great. Well, before we take a look at some of these materials in the reading room, I'm going to ask you a quick question. So you may have covered some of this in your introduction, but why should one visit MASC?
Well, I think the main thing is that if you come into MASC and do research, you're going to be working with primary sources, and many of our primary sources are unique, so it's an opportunity to do original research. And I have to say that faculty on campus love it when students come in and use primary sources in their papers to make arguments. And also when you work with these materials, it's very exciting. It's a great experience.
And for some of them, they get that aha moment where they really understand what it is that they've been reading, how the books that they have been reading in their courses were constructed, how that research was conducted, what historians do to draw their historical conclusions. So I really like to transition them from reading history to creating history.
So we're here in the reading room with Trevor Bond, of course, and our manuscripts librarian, Cheryl Gunselman. So Cheryl, can you tell us a little bit about what you've brought out to display here?
Yes, so we have a folder of correspondence from a collection of papers from a professor here. She taught English, and she was also a poet. She corresponded with soldiers during World War II, and this is incoming correspondence to her from soldiers that she wrote to, and also a folder of photographs from another collection of former students, twin sisters who attended here in 1929 and the early 1930s. We also have a volume from our early modern books. It's of martyrology, which is an account of martyrs during Mary Tudor's reign in England. It's an illustrated book, and it's quite captivating. And also a map from the 18th century from an atlas, and it's a map of Africa. So very interesting. It has some beautiful cartouches associated with it. So not just a map, but also pictures.
If I'm visiting here for research and you've pulled all the materials, I got my backpack, I got my materials for taking notes, I'm ready to go. Is there anything that I should know before coming in and doing research here?
Right, yes. And so that's one thing that is different about doing research in MASC compared to the rest of the library. So when you come here, you'll use the materials in the reading room where we are right now, and before you come in, you'll register at the front desk, you'll sign in, and we'll ask you to leave your bags and pens and drinks and food all out front. You can bring your laptop and a camera and note-taking materials in with you, and then you'll use the materials here in the room.
Since you're our rare book expert, Trevor, would you mind telling us a little bit about the handling of books?
Sure. I think the main thing to keep in mind is just really doing no harm to the book. So with the rare books, as with all the collections, just treating them with a little bit of love and respect. And one of the things we try to do in the department is preserve these collections so that they can be used both by students coming in and doing research today, but also future generations of students. And with the books, the real delicate part is where the boards of the book attach to the spine, so we'll provide cradles to support the book so that no damage is done.
With the loose papers, the correspondence, the manuscript materials, what are the procedures for handling those?
Right, so the way that those work, typically you'll be delivered a box of material, or perhaps multiple boxes, and we'll ask that you work with one box at a time and one folder at a time within those boxes, and keeping everything in order as you find it. Try to keep the collections pretty tidy so that the material stays in good condition for the next researcher. So that's the main thing, is just kind of keeping things in the order that you find them in, handling them carefully, keeping things on top of the table, for example. Don't let them fall on the floor. So we normally will ask that you use a card that has "out" written on it, that takes the place of a folder as you pull it out of the box. And then you put the folder back in place of the card when you're finished with it and move on to the next thing.
Okay. And of course, I noticed we have some cotton gloves, so what would those be for?
Right, so we normally ask people to wear gloves here just for handling very particular kinds of things. So we're not one of those places where they have you wear the gloves for everything. For photographs, for handling photographs, that's very important. Other kinds of coated paper, so chemically treated paper, and occasionally things like maps that are backed by fabric. But normally you just want to handle things with clean, bare hands.
Moving on to the maps, we have this beautiful Senex map of Africa. As you mentioned, you use it is backed by cloth, so we would use the gloves for that. Are there any other pointers that you would have for using a map like this?
Right, I guess the main thing that comes to mind is it needs to be, kept very carefully flat on the table so it isn't exposed to any unnecessary stress. And also, we don't want to touch the printed parts of the map more than absolutely necessary. So if you want to handle things, you kind of want to keep your hands on the margins of the map, or the areas of the map that are not printed. That just helps to preserve it for future use and keep things from being marked by our hands.
Okay.
And just one other little point to add, sometimes in a classroom setting especially, it's easy to have the table quite full, so just take some care not to maybe take notes by writing on top of the map on a piece of paper or something to that effect, just making sure that the item itself has plenty of room.
So before we leave the reading room, let's say I found an item, because obviously you can't take these materials away from manuscripts and special collections, and I want to come back to it later. What sorts of information should I be taking so I could find this item again?
Trevor, do you want to take the one?
Sure, I think the main thing is just jotting down the collection number and the item number so that we can retrieve it. Also, if you want to bring in a digital camera or use your phone to snap a picture, that can help identify items later on. But really, what we need to know is the collection number and the box or the folder that it was in, then we can retrieve it easily for you.
Right, or the call number if it's a book.
Or call number.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. So next I'll be going down with Cheryl to the storage area, and I will meet you, Trevor, in the rare book room.
And sometimes when you're looking at those documents, you have to ask who made them, who were they commissioned by to make them, and sometimes you realize that they might be composited, or a photograph might be taken from a certain angle to show the public a certain view of something, and that's when it gets really exciting, and those aren't always apparent, and so it really demonstrates a student's critical thinking and creative thinking skills if they can look at those documents and ask the questions about what's significant, and even if it doesn't come, to stay with it for a little while and just view it until it starts to speak back to you.
So Cheryl and I are here in the storage area with the University Archivist, Mark English. Mark, can you explain a little bit about what we mean when we say University Archives?
The University Archives, the term almost pretty much defines itself. It's the history of the university collected in papers, documents, photographs, video, audio, anything, any format the history comes in.
Anything about Washington State University, or is there something more specific than that?
It's mostly stuff produced by Washington State University or its employees.
And do you have an example from the University Archives?
One of the oldest things, this volume right here, this is the Regents' Minutes. The Board of Regents are basically the governing body for the campus. They hire and fire the president and approve most of his decisions. And over the course of the years, we have a variety of sets of minutes from them. They're electronic in this day and age, but this is the very first volume dating back to the very first Board of Regents minutes from April 22nd, 1891. They met in Olympia, Washington, and you can look at this and see who was involved, what they decided to do, how they went about founding Washington State University, or Washington Agricultural College, Experiment Station, and School of Science, as it would have been known back then.
So now, if Mark is the university archivist and you're the manuscripts librarian,
That's right.
so what's the distinction between the two?
Right. So it's not easy to explain in one sentence, but the biggest difference is, as Mark was saying, the collections he curates as university archivist are the things that are produced by the institution on the whole. And so in the manuscript area, I kind of curate all the rest of it, the things that are produced by maybe individuals associated with Washington State University, but the records weren't official records of the university, things that we've collected because they have research value, records of associations and companies, organizations. The manuscript collections are much more diverse, and they originate from lots and lots of different sources, both in our region, the rest of the country, and also globally around the world.
And can you talk about an example of something that we have here in our manuscripts collection?
Sure. Would you like me to show it to you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I would love that.
So in a collection I'm actually currently processing, it's a collection of papers of an author who's a graduate of our institution. We have a poem written by the woman who would become Princess Grace of Monaco. At the time, Grace Kelly. She wrote this to her father on his birthday when she was a young girl.
And so we bring in all these materials, and nowadays, I mean, certainly it's all online, isn't it?
We try to get some of this online. If you were to come down here into the stacks, everything is kept in boxes down here in the, and if you laid all these boxes end to end to end, we'd have something close to 3 miles of papers. And if you can imagine how much time it would take to scan that and put it all online, the scanning's the easy part. Describing it so people can understand what it is and find it easily would be the time-consuming part. So there's some of the stuff online. We have a collection of the student newspapers, the Evergreens. We started digitizing those in 1890, and they're up to the late 1970s and still marching forward. We have 20,000 photographs out of the 2 million photographs held here. But that's a tiny portion of the amount of stuff we have down here. What we do have online, and if we don't have stuff online, what we have is guides. We organize the stuff in the boxes, put it in folders, write on the folders what it is, and we put together a list of those folders, and those are online and searchable. So you can go online, and if you can't actually see the item, you can find out what we have, and if we're likely to have what you want.
And that's all my questions, so I'm going to go meet Trevor in Rare Book, so thank you. So I'm here in the Rare Book stacks with Trevor Bond, and Trevor's going to tell us a little bit about our Rare Book collection.
A couple of our key collections are the personal working library of the British author Virginia Woolf and her husband Leonard Woolf, and we have 9,000 plus books from their library that used to be in London, as well as their country home in Rodwell, England. And if you kind of look to the right of me, the Woolf Library is separated into these range of shelves. So really a fabulous collection. We also have broad holdings in what librarians often call Northwest Americana, that is books about the Northwest, as well as an extensive collection on the history of veterinary medicine, horse care, as well as more than 20,000 books on the history of angling, fishing, and outdoor sports. So quite a range of things, and all this is peppered with lots of early printed books from England as well as the US.
So you're going to be showing us our copy of Paradise Lost.
Yeah, it's right here, Steve.
I love the binding.
Yeah, it's a full calf contemporary binding. That is, it's a binding from the 17th century. This particular copy was printed in the year 1688. Just an all-around beautiful book, lavishly illustrated, and I think by experiencing a copy that may have been on sale during John Milton's life, student, say, in the English department can really get a sense of the experience of this book as readers in 17th century England had by seeing the long S's that look like F's, the way the type is laid out, the quality of the nature of the paper, and some people are especially fond just even of the smell of an old book.
This concludes our tour of MASC. We hope you will visit us soon to explore our unique collections that, with a little love, we can help pass on to future generations of Wazoo students. If you wish to learn more about our collections, please visit us online at libraries.wsu.edu/MASC. Thank you.